I am fully aware that this game has already been out for a number of months now, but this is one that I've been really meaning to get out since then, but just simply didn't have the time to, especially with all these other new releases that have been demanding my time. Nevertheless, I now have the chance to do so, and I've got to say, it's among one of the best releases we've had this year, which is telling that among them are a series of remakes and remasters. And this one is classified as a remaster, yet, as you've seen in the title of this video, feels like much more. Originally released for the GameCube in 2002, Metroid Prime Remastered reintroduces a classic to a new generation of gamers. Retro Studios, who worked on porting this remaster to the Nintendo Switch, have done an excellent job here. There have been several remasters over the years for various different games in various different genres, and more often than not, it is at least one of a few things. Either it's just a simple retexture with upscaling, or one with technically better visuals but with a loss of atmosphere, or, at worst, a remaster that somehow looks worse than the original version. Metroid Prime Remastered absolutely is none of these things. In fact, very, very far from it. Of course, it has better textures, resolution, and better lighting, but this remaster takes it a few steps higher, which makes it feel like a full remake. Obviously, it isn't, because this was not rebuilt from the ground up, but somehow, it looks like it could have been. If I were not chronically online or really into the gaming space and you just told me that this was a remake, I'd probably believe you. It just looks that good. But Metroid Prime doesn't just feel this way based on visuals alone. Even when comparing this version to its original, the original still looks really good for its time, and like the original Dead Space, is one of the few that holds up really well. Actually, given that this was released 6 years earlier than Dead Space, I may even be inclined to say this holds up even better. But a good game doesn't just stand the test of time with visuals alone. It is because the game plays so well that it helps make this remaster feel like a brand new entry into the Metroid series. The gameplay itself is phenomenal and has aged like fine wine, with the exception of one key element, though I'm sure some would disagree. The controls in the original version of the game, that you can technically still toggle in the settings if you so choose, are not my favorite. Tank controls feel very outdated to me, but changing it so that you can now move your camera around as well is a quality of life improvement that would be nearly enough to warrant this remaster on its own. But simply being able to play this on modern hardware, as modern as Nintendo goes, along with the visual improvements, are definitely welcomed. But I do have to be honest, not all the visual changes are better though. You may have already heard of Doorgate before, and while I don't think it's a big deal at all, more than a nitpick than anything, the doors did have better textures in the original version than in the newer one. It just doesn't have that same character. But that is pretty much the only negative thing that I have to say about this, and it is incredibly minor in my opinion. That should just tell you how fantastic this remaster is, and the game itself as well. I partially held off making this review earlier in the year because aside from releasing other videos and having other commitments, I intended to beat this game first. But that's actually something I still haven't done. But like I mentioned in my previous review, I've come to realize that it's not always necessary to finish it before you do, if you feel like you've gotten enough time with it and feel confident enough to relay your thoughts. And though I've not beaten it on the Switch, I had also played some of the beginning sections on various platforms to see how it compares for myself. I played the opening section on Dolphin at first, then tried the Wii version on my Wii U, and then the GameCube version on my Steam Deck. After that, I hit up the eShop and purchased this remaster. And it is honestly quite surprising Nintendo didn't list this as full price, given the fact that they slapped an $80 price tag on Skyward Sword, which was a mere HD port. And this was coming from someone who bought that too. After playing that one small slice of the game on these different platforms, I must say, they are all fantastic, and are each good in their own way for a variety of reasons. For emulators like Dolphin, you can upscale it to 4K. For the Wii version, you can use the Wiimote, which provides an interesting experience. And on the Steam Deck, it allows you to play it portably. And all three of these, while I'm not endorsing anything, you know, ROMs are not the most difficult to get a hold of. But the Switch version has better visuals, and also the best parts of all three of the former, apart from reaching 4K of course. Like the Wii version, you can now opt to use motion controls, providing a similar and arguably better experience to that. And since the nature of the Switch is portability, well, you've got that here too. Granted, the screen is slightly smaller on non-OLED Switches. Even as someone who doesn't typically play many games in this genre, and rarely if ever finishes them, I can fully recognize a good game, even if it's not really for me. Like, even with Souls-likes and roguelikes, I barely scratch the surface with those games, yet I still like giving them a try, and can still recognize and appreciate just how awesome they are. And so the same thing could be said here, except for this one, I do plan on beating it someday. But what makes this difficult to do as someone who plays tons of other games is that these games do not hold your hand, and neither does this one. It does nudge you a bit more than those, but if you do not have any patience for this kind of game, where figuring things out and backtracking are fundamental, you probably will not enjoy your time with this, and is likely not your kind of game. And that is okay. Not every game is going to be everyone's cup of tea. But if you are looking into this review, chances are you already are aware of this kind of game, and not only don't mind its core gameplay loop, but actually prefer it. And I can tell you, it can sometimes be a bit frustrating, but in an invigorating way. The few boss fights I have done are crafted in that traditional Nintendo way. They have that sort of rhythm to them, and once you figure that out, it makes it easier to tackle them and get into this flow state. But I won't say that the bosses are easy either, at least to me. But figuring out their weak points sure does soften the blow. However, unlike most Nintendo games, this and Metroid Dread do have difficulty levels. This has casual and normal. Unfortunately, like Resident Evil and such, whatever you select, that is the mode that you are stuck with, unless you plan on starting over. But you probably will be able to determine whether or not you can handle it pretty early on. Metroid Prime Remastered stands as a shining example of how to successfully remaster a classic game. With its exceptional visuals, refined controls, and timeless gameplay, it captivates both fans of the original and newcomers alike. Or someone seeking a compelling adventure, this remaster delivers an invigorating experience that showcases the brilliance of Metroid Prime and is a great way to get your foot into the door to start delving into Samus' adventures before the long-awaited release of Metroid Prime 4. Now, this all begs the question. Will we see the next two remastered? Is this something you'd love to see? Let me know down below, and until next time, I'll see you soon.